At the time of a movement, there's always this euphoria and a sense that you can do anything. But I think almost what's more important is who organizes the reality that comes after the movement. The political parties and the Maoists who have been in charge of restructuring Nepal have not done a very sincere job.
5 years on, the optimism has given way to disillusionment. After all the promises of those 19 days of revolutionary drama, the process of enacting real reform has proved much more difficult. Sabina Shrestha, AlJazeera, Kathmandu.
Nepal's former Prime Minister Krishna Prasad Bhattarai has died. He was 87 years old. Bhattarai served as Prime Minister of the Himalayan nation twice after leading a popular movement to restore multi-party democracy in 1990 and again 9 years later. Bhattarai is to be cremated on Sunday. In Peru, 3 young sisters were killed when their home was buried under a torrent of rocks and mud. Heavy rains flooded a ravine in the northern town of Moyobamba, triggering the landslide. The children's parents were saved by rescuers. Their daughters were 10, 9 and 5 years old. 3 other people died in the town and several more are missing. Victims of last weekend's mudslides in the Bolivian capital La Paz are receiving aid and makeshift accommodation. At least 50 people died when their homes were deluged following severe flooding. Thousands were forced to flee as buildings collapsed across 7 districts. And now to basketball, and London has hosted Europe's first ever NBA game during the regular season. The New Jersey Nets were up against the Toronto Raptors in a match aimed at raising the profile of the game in Britain ahead of the 2012 Olympics. Ashley House has the details.
The NBA says it's all about burning competition, blazing athleticism and sizzling excitement. And it's always been seen as quintessentially American. But the bosses know that in today's global marketplace, bigger markets mean new fans, and new fans mean more merchandising, ticket sales, revenue and profit.
The fans here demanded that we bring over a regular season game. There's enormous interest here for it, and it's also a bit of an experiment. I think David Stern has talked in the past about one day potentially having a division of NBA teams based in Europe.
But is he right? Is there really a European audience for basketball, or will the traditional spectator sports always squeeze it out?
It's too difficult with teams coming over all the time, back and forth.
We love the mascots, the cheerleaders.
And they sell pizza for free.
And you get free pizza if they score so many points, and it's just so much fun.
It's just the excitement. Every minute of it is just, there's always an alley-oop there or a sweet pass there. It's just something about it is always exciting.
I'm always watching like the NBA games online, like at 2 in the morning, and it's like if it was like better timed here, then obviously it just gets so much publicity and it just be awesome basically.
Never overtake football in England. No sport ever will, because football's the main sport.
Friday's game between the New Jersey Nets and the Toronto Raptors had all the razzmatazz you'd expect from the NBA, although a little dampened by the two sides' poor league positions.
When Toronto played New York in the first ever NBA game, I'm sure that none of the officials, players or spectators could have imagined that just 55 years later they'd be playing matches on the other side of the world. And yet here we are in London with back-to-back regular season NBA games. Now, the outcome of these matches may not be that significant when it comes to where the championship trophy goes at the end of 2011, but in terms of the global future of the sport of basketball, these may be the most significant games since that one back in 1946.
Negotiations to stop a possible NFL lockout next season have been extended by another week. Players and club owners are in a dispute over how to split the estimated $9 billion the league earns every year. The parties had already agreed to a 24-hour extension before adding a further 7 days after mediation talks on Friday. The owners want to increase their current 40% share, but the players disagree. If no solution is found, the players will face the threat of a lockout. That's where the clubs prevent them from playing for next season. It's even prompted U.S. President Barack Obama to urge both parties to resolve the situation. Hundreds of thousands of people are arriving in Rio de Janeiro as the climax of Brazil's annual Carnival approaches. Celebrations are already underway, and the keys to the city were handed over to the Carnival's symbolic head, King Momo. The party comes to a climax on Sunday and Monday as samba schools compete against each other. And don't forget, you can always keep up to date with all of our news on our website. And to find that, go to aljazeera.net/English. You'll find blogs, features, analysis, and plus, of course, all of the stories that we've been following here. This is Al Jazeera, and these are the stories making the headlines. In Libya, Colonel Gaddafi's troops have attacked areas in and around the opposition-held city of AlJazeera, just west of Tripoli. Reports say at least 30 people have died, but the area remains under rebel control. To the east in Benghazi, there was an explosion at an arms dump. At least a dozen people were killed. This is the city where the uprising against the Gaddafi regime began more than 2 weeks ago. It's still being held by the opposition. And in the capital, Tripoli, tear gas and rubber bullets were used to break up an anti-Gaddafi protest after Friday prayers. But later, his loyalists held a rally there. Several people have been injured after protesters clashed with police in Egypt's second biggest city. The demonstrators gathered outside the state security building in Alexandria. Some of them later stormed the offices, claiming the police were trying to get rid of identification documents. China's Premier Wen Jiabao has pledged to clamp down on inflation, corruption and raise income levels. When told the annual National People's Congress in Beijing, the measures are necessary to maintain stability. German officials say the man suspected of shooting dead 2 U.S. Air Force members at Frankfurt Airport on Wednesday could have killed more people if his gun hadn't jammed. 21-year-old Arad Uka had been charged with 2 counts of murder and 3 attempted murder. The U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has condemned the killing of at least 6 female protesters in Côte d'Ivoire. She says incumbent President Laurent Gbagbo has shown a total disregard for human life. Doubt has been cast over allegations of spying at the French car maker Renault. The firm's chief operator Patrick Palata says the espionage complaint filed in January may have been false. It's thought the company could have been the victim of internal manipulation. 3 executives sacked after the story emerged have been offered their jobs back. Real Madrid's manager, Jose Mourinho, is reported to have escaped a knife attack. The former Chelsea boss and self-styled Special One was assaulted by a man armed with a blade as he signed autographs in the Spanish airport. And those are the headlines. Stay with us now for After Egypt Burning.
Began as a demonstration and turned into a revolution.